March 31st, 1922, Hinterkaifeck Farm, Bavaria. The wind gnawed at the farmhouse like a starving thing. Cecilia Gruber lay awake, listening to the footsteps in the attic again. They were heavier tonight. Deliberate, she had told Andreas, but he'd only grunted, dismissing her as always. Rats, he said. Asterisk. Or the wind. Asterisk. But rats didn't laugh. Earlier that evening, Maria, the new maid, had crossed herself 3 times before bed. The last maid had fled screaming, her apron stained with something dark. It's in the walls, she'd hissed. Now Maria lay rigid beneath her quilt, praying the scratching beneath the floorboards was just the house settling. Outside, the snow swallowed sound. Inside, the axe, Andreas' own, hung by the door, its edge gleaming in the lamplight. By dawn, it would be buried in their skulls. Claire Vogel had spent years chasing ghosts. A true crime journalist with a reputation for digging up the buried and the damned, she had written about serial killers, unsolved disappearances, and the kind of horrors that made editors whisper too graphic before printing. But Hinterkaifeck had always been different. It wasn't just the brutality, 6 people slaughtered like livestock, their bodies stacked like firewood in the barn. It was the silence. The way the case had gone cold, then frozen solid, as if the Bavarian winter itself had swallowed the truth whole. The farmhouse stood at the end of a winding, skeletal road, half buried in snow. The German Historical Society had leased it to her for research. Asterisk, just don't stay after dark. Asterisk, the agent had joked. He didn't laugh when she said she would. The first thing she noticed was the smell. Not rot. Not mildew. Something older. The walls were papered in yellowed newsprint, the floors uneven, groaning underfoot. The kitchen still had the same stove where Cecilia had cooked her last meal. The same table where the children, asterisk 2 girls barely school-aged and a toddler asterisk, had eaten in silence before bed. And the attic. The attic was waiting. Claire told herself she wasn't afraid. She had stayed in haunted places before, abandoned asylums, murder houses, the kind of spots where tourists took selfies and joked about bad vibes. But Hinterkaifeck wasn't like that. Hinterkaifeck breathed. The first night she heard the footsteps. Not rats. Not the wind. Steps, heavy, patient, moving above her. She grabbed her flashlight and swung the beam toward the ceiling. The attic hatch was shut. Locked. Then why did it sound like someone was pacing up there? She forced herself to sleep. The dream came fast. Asterisk, she was standing in the barn. Snow drifted through the broken slats. At her feet, 6 shapes lay under a tarp. One of them moved. A small hand reached out. Asterisk. Claire woke gasping. Something had scratched the door. She found the diary beneath a loose floorboard in the maid's room. Maria Bauer, 19 years old, had been the replacement. The last maid had vanished mid-shift, leaving behind only a bloody apron and a scream that neighbors swore they heard a week later, echoing from the woods. Maria's handwriting was frantic, the ink blotted as if she'd been crying. March 28, 1922. Asterisk, her Gruber is lying. The last maid didn't run away. She's buried in the woods. I found her hair ribbon in the barn, crusted with asterisk. The rest was torn out. Claire's pulse hammered in her throat. She flipped ahead. March 30th, 1922. Asterisk, the children won't stop crying. Little Victoria says the man in the attic talks to her at night. Cecilia won't look at me anymore. Andreas drinks until he passes out. I think he knows what's coming. Asterisk. The final entry. March 31st, 1922. Asterisk, it's here. It's in the house. God forgive me. Asterisk. The page ended in a smear of brown blood. The police reports were worse. Claire spread them across the kitchen table, her breath fogging in the cold. The crime scene photos were grainy, but the horror was clear. 6 bodies. All bludgeoned. The children's skulls, asterisk, oh God, asterisk, crushed like eggshells. The axe had been found outside, buried in the snow. No fingerprints. But there was one detail the papers hadn't reported. A handprint on the kitchen wall. Too large to be any of the victims. Fingers elongated, the palms splayed as if something had pushed itself up from the floor. Claire traced the outline. The plaster was still stained. Who or what had left it? The archives in Munich held the missing piece. Asterisk, June 1920. A fire at the St. George Psychiatric Hospital. 47 dead. Asterisk. 1 patient unaccounted for. Ludwig Hauser. A former farmhand. Andreas Gruber's first employee. The file was thin. Hauser had been committed after he was found in the woods, naked and laughing, his hands black with soil. He said he'd been digging for the old gods, the report read. Claire's skin prickled. She dug deeper. Hauser had worked at Hinterkaifeck for years, until Andreas cheated him out of his wages, until he disappeared into the asylum, until 2 years later when the fire coincidentally happened months before the murders. Had he come back for revenge? Or had something else come with him? The barn was worse than the house. Dark, stinking of old hay and something metallic. Claire's flashlight flickered as she pried up the floorboards near where the bodies had been found. There, a rusted tin box. Inside, a human jawbone, teeth filed to points. A newspaper clipping about the asylum fire. A photograph of the Gruber family, their faces scratched out. On the back in faded ink. Asterisk, they should have paid him. Asterisk. Claire's breath caught. A noise behind her. Footsteps. She turned. The barn door swung shut. March 31st, 1922. Maria Bauer knelt in the attic, her hands shaking. The thing in the corner smiled. It had been waiting for years. Waiting for the debt to come due. The axe felt heavy in her hands. Do it, whispered the voice that wasn't hers. And so she did. December 24th, present day. Claire's laptop sat open on the desk, her final chapter unfinished. The wind screamed through the eaves. The attic door creaked. Asterisk unlocked now. Asterisk. Her last sentence. It's still here. The axe was missing from its hook. Outside the snow began to fall. Silent. Hungry. Waiting. When the police found Claire's car, the engine was still running. Her notes were scattered across the seat. One page bore a single line written in a hand not hers. Asterisk, you should have listened to the footsteps. Asterisk. And in the attic, 6 new shadows. Waiting for the next curious soul. Waiting to tell their story. Waiting. Always waiting. The end? Asterisk, or is it? Asterisk. If you're still with me, get ready, because the next story is even more horrifying. June 21st, 2024, 3:16 a.m. The live stream cut in and out, pixelated with interference. Tyler Daisy's face filled the screen, sweat gleaming under the shaky glow of his phone flashlight. Behind him, the walls of the house were scribbled with symbols, spirals, eyes, something that looked like a mouth. Guys, I think we fucked up, he whispered. A noise off camera. A drag like something heavy being pulled across hardwood. The chat exploded. User 666. Dude, get out. Esperidibioxck. That's not your friend. Tyler turned the camera. The hallway behind him was empty. Then the ceiling creaked. The feed glitched. When it cleared, Tyler was gone. The phone lay on the floor, tilted up at the foyer chandelier, where his body now hung, upside down, wrists slit in a grotesque V. The last thing heard before the stream died. He knows. Detective Maya Cruz had seen bad places before. Abandoned meth labs. The rotting trailer where her sister's backpack was found. But this house. It watched. The Victorian loomed behind overgrown hedges, its boarded windows like clenched teeth. The porch sagged under her weight, the wood groaning as if in pain. Inside, the air clung thick with copper and mildew. The walls were a riot of graffiti, pentagrams, Latin phrases, and that damn spiral with eyes repeated like a mantra. Sheriff Grady snorted. Kids. Probably some TikTok exorcism shit gone wrong. Maya said nothing. She was staring at the foyer floor. The bloodstain formed a perfect circle. As if Tyler had been drained there. Now they were ghosts. Liz Chin, 21, had barricaded herself in her parents' basement, refusing to speak. Her TikTok was a feed of manic eyes and whispered warnings. It's not a house. It's a stomach. Jared Cole was missing. His journal, found in a ditch, contained sketches of a tall figure in a wide-brimmed hat, the warden, and a single underlined phrase, "You have to feed it." The third roommate, Marcus Vega, sat across from Maya in the interrogation room, picking at his scabbed wrists. "We just wanted views," he mumbled. Then, quieter, Tyler went into the basement. He said it talked to him. Maya leaned in. What did it say? Marcus's pupils dilated. It told him we were the ritual. Behind it, a VHS collection labeled Harvest 94. The footage showed robed figures circling a teenage girl tied to a chair. The camera zoomed in as a man in a wide-brimmed hat, the warden, pressed a blade to her throat. "We give this life to the house," he intoned. The screen cut to static. The next tape was worse. A home video from 1998, a family screaming as something moved behind the walls. The father lunged at the camera, his face a mask of terror. Then the same symbol, freshly painted in what looked like blood. Maya's hands shook. The coroner's report had found that symbol carved into Tyler's ribs. Bought a Ouija board. Real antique. the kind they used in the 80s satanic panic. He slid the receipt across the counter. Maya froze. The signature wasn't Tyler's. It was TD. The initials of Thomas Dwyer, a teen who'd hung himself in the house in 1979. The first victim. Back at the station, Grady dismissed it. Copycat shit. But the security footage from the neighbor's porch told another story. 3 hours before Tyler's death, a hooded figure standing in the driveway. Tyler yelling, "You said it would just be views." The figure turning. The camera distorting, impossibly, as its face stretched into something not human. No matter how high Maya cranked the heat. She stood in the basement, the walls pulsing with graffiti, and played the tape recorder found in Tyler's pocket. Static. Then. The warden feeds the house. The house feeds the warden. You have to choose. A click. A new voice whispering. Your turn. Maya's radio crackled. Dispatch, we've got a 10 to 54, possible intruder at Carver Lane. She drew her gun. Above her, the ceiling creaked. It showed her climbing the stairs, the house breathing around her. The spiral symbol glowed fresh on the walls, painted in something wet. Then the attic. The door was open. Inside, a chair. Ropes. A bowl of dark liquid. And the VHS player running. The screen flickered to life, showing a 1994 newscast about missing children. The camera panned over a crowd. Maya's breath stopped. There in the front row, her sister at age 6. And beside her, a man in a wide-brimmed hat. Smiling. Her gun was never recovered. On the police blotter, Grady finally wrote, "Case closed." But in the dead of night, the house on Carver Lane hums with electricity. The thermostat reads 66.6 degrees Fahrenheit. The attic door creaks open. And on TikTok, a new live stream begins. Filmed from inside the walls. The end. Or is it? If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep the horror coming. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you never miss a chilling story.